Alright guys, so this is the second part to the sell dynamic products that we are just working on Paystack right now. And what we're going to do in this part is to go ahead and create the verify.php page, which that is really where we stopped the other day. So we're able to make payments, and then after the payment it had to redirect us to this page, which is verify.php page, which is a page that we're going to use to verify the payment, the authenticity of the payment. And we're using this particular reference key that we have on the URL right here. And with that, we're going to have to reach the verify endpoint of Paystack. So if you have not done anything with verify endpoint of Paystack, which is really recommended for every transaction that we make, we're going to learn it in this part. But before we do that, I want us to make some corrections to the previous work we've done. And I'm going to just go to the front page right now. And what will happen is that once you click on the product, it tries to generate this page for you, which is just going to come up with all the details for that particular product. And if you look at the H1 that we have right here, what I intended to type was buy now, but I went ahead and typed buy no. So we're going to have to correct that. And we also have a little error down here. In this place, the original background to this place was supposed to be red. It's only when we bring our mouse button close to it on a hover effect, we should be able to have this background that we have right here. So we have to correct that right now. So let's go back to our development environment. And the first thing that I would like to do now will be to correct this. So I'm going to go ahead and correct this. So I'm going to add colon, then I'll type the word hover right here. And that is just the correction to that. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Then go to my buy.php page. And I'm going to go ahead and correct this. So this is not just going to be no. So I'm going to go ahead and add W right here. I'll save that. And if I go back to my browser, if I refresh, I should have those things coming. And if I scroll up, you see that this has been corrected. So this is now buy now. Okay. Then if you look at the background right here, it still hasn't changed to red. So let's find out. Maybe we should clear the cache. Alright, so I just cleared the cache, and then the background turned to red. And once you bring your mouse button close to it, it changes to that navy color that you're seeing right there. Alright, so that's just what we want to do right here. And we're going to proceed to working on the endpoint right now. And let's go back to our development environment, and I'm going to create a new file right now, which I'm going to call verify.php. So this is going to be called verify.php right there. And once I have that opened, I'm going to go ahead and copy buy.php, and I'll paste that right into this place. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that now. And the first thing I would like to do will be to change the H1 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and call this verification page. And if I scroll to the top, I'll go ahead and change. I need to change the title, which is not to the top, but yeah. So I'm going to have to also change that right here. So instead, I'm going to let me just copy this. I'll copy this right now and paste it right. And what I really need now, I'm going to go ahead and take away this code, this PHP code that we have right here, and start afresh. Alright, so we have that, and the next thing that we're going to have to take away will be this. Take away this, everything that is in this div. So we have absolutely an empty page to work with right now. So if we save this and we go back to our browser, so let's go maybe find go to one of those pages that we already did something with. So you see that we have a clean slate right now. We don't have anything in this page, but we're going to work on it and then kind of bring those things that we did out on this page. So before we get started, the first thing that I would like to show you right now would be to take you to the documentation page, and let's go through that. So this is the documentation page for the verification. Alright, so if you look at it right here, we are on the verification transaction endpoint right now. and we're going to need this particular URL. That's the endpoint to verifying every payment that you want to verify on Paystack. That's api.paystack.co/transaction/verify, and you are going to need the reference code right here. Okay, we'll see how we're going to transform that. And if you want to take a look at the headers that we need to do this, this is going to be that we're going to just need the authorization, and as far as the body parameters are going to be, I'm talking about the path parameters, that's going to be reference, which I've already shown you right here. Okay, that's just quite a few things that we're going to need. And so let's try and then kind of get that. And this is going to be a GET request, guys. It's going to be a GET request. So we're going to make a GET request using our coil right now to kind of connect to this particular endpoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and copy this URL, this endpoint. So I'll copy that right now, and if I go back to my development environment, I'm going to go ahead and then the first thing that I would like to do now would be to initiate COI, and to do that is really very simple. So I'm going to just put that in a variable. So I'm going to just say cURL, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in a function. So this is going to be cURL_init. Like that. That's the function to initiating a COI. And the next thing that I would like to do now is to first of all turn off the mandatory SSL check. So I'm going to just put that. Let me put a comment right here and say turn off SSL. And then on the next line, what I'm going to do right now is to kind of set a configuration for that for the turning off of the SSL. And to do that, we've done this before. So this is going to be call_setup. And to do that, I'm going to first of all need this particular variable, which is cURL COI. That's the first parameter I'm going to need. So I'm going to just say COI. I will introduce a comma, and then I'm going to have to bring in the constant, or the constant that is going to help us kind of turn this to turn it off. And to do that, it's going to be cURL, which is going to be callups, and probably most have seen that before. And I'm going to just say SSL_verify peer. So this is the constant that is going to help us turn that off, and that particular constant has 2 Boolean values. The first one is false, and then the second one is true. Then for the fact that we want to just turn that off, what we're supposed to do now is that we're going to turn that off by setting it to false. So I'm going to just say false, and that is going to help us turn the SSL checking to off right now. But if you are on a live mode, you have SSL, a HTTPS on your server, you are going to have to turn this to true, or you completely remove this line entirely, because by default it's going to have to force over to HTTPS. Alright, so that is just that. So the next thing that I would like to do now is to check and then get the reference code from the URL, which I've already shown you. We're going to have to find a way to get that from the URL, this which we have on the URL right now. So to do that, we're going to use get super global variable. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to just say, I'll put a comment here and say get the reference code from the URL. And to do that is very, very simple. I'm going to have to use if statement to do that. So I'm going to just say if not empty $_get, which is a get super global variable, and I'm going to go ahead and then add the word that is on the URL right there, which is in this case should be called a variable. I'm talking about this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this word reference right now. So I'll copy that, and once I go back to my development environment, I'm going to have to put it right here. Okay, so that's just what I'm going to do in the first place. And the next thing that I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to go ahead and try to keep whatever that I get from the URL clean, so that if people try to do something that is harmful to us through the URL by putting some harmful coding on the URL, we're going to have to escape that. And to do that is very simple. I'm going to just have to put a comment right here. Let me just say clean the reference code. And to do that, I'm going to just create a variable that I will call sanitize. If you've been following my videos, I normally do this quite a lot, okay? So this should be very simple to you right now. So I'm going to use a function called the future underscore var underscore array. And within this place right now, the first thing that I'm going to have to do is, what we're doing is we're trying to use a super global variable to get the stuff from the URL. So the first parameter is going to be that get. If it was for post, I'm going to go ahead and add post right there. But this is for get, so I'm going to say get, comma, and the next thing will be the constant. So I'm going to just say future underscore sanitize underscore string, and which is really very powerful. What that is going to do for us is that it's going to sanitize whatever that is coming from that URL as a string, and then in that case, whenever someone puts something that is bad on that URL, is not going to be harmful to us. So I'm going to create a variable that I'll call reference, and I'll go ahead and first of all I'm going to take this variable, right here that I call the sanitize, and I'm going to use that to wrap around and square bracket rather, and I'm going to go ahead and put this particular thing that we have on the URL, which is reference. So I'm going to just go ahead and type reference right there, just like that. So with this line, we've really kind of keep what we're doing really very clean right now. And if you want to let's say you want an additional function that will help you really keep this clean, we're going to have to use the raw URL and code to do that. Let me just add that right here. So I'm going to just say raw, which is really a function, and it's really very powerful working with things that are coming from the URL. And I think I really have talked about this before when we worked on this page, but we had a little issue that day, and we had to leave it. And it's really up to you right now to kind of find a way to make sure that you keep things really clean. I think there was a time I attempted to use it right here, but I later resolved to using HTML special chars. So we're going to have to find out which is the best for you, because this is also coming from the URL. Raw URL and code is really very powerful, and that's what I'm going to use on this page right now. So just do a little research to find out between this raw URL and code and HTML special chars, the one that's really more powerful and more convenient for you to use, and you should go ahead and use that. Okay, so that is just that. So this is how that is looking right now, and I believe that it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add an else part right here. So this is going to be else, and if that is really not in the URL, what do we want to do? We can just add a simple dot function right here. And in the dot function, I'm going to go ahead and say no reference was supplied, and just like that, I'm going to go ahead and terminate this line, and that is it for now. And the next thing that I would like to do now is to go ahead and set a couple of options, and that's really configuration. So I'm going to let me go ahead and put a comment here and say set the configurations. And with that, we're trying to just make sure that we configure the coil the right way, so that it will really give us all the things that we need from the Paystack endpoint. Okay, so the first thing that I would like to do now, the configuration, I'm going to have to put that in a function called cURL underscore setup underscore array. And yeah, so that's just what is that going to be. I'm going to go ahead and terminate that line immediately. Then within this particular array which I've just created, I'm going to do a couple of things right now, or I kind of go ahead and set some more things that I need to set. And the first thing that I need right now, just like every other options or configurations that we normally do, we are going to have to need the initiator right here, which is this coil. So I'm going to copy that right now. That will be the first thing that we're going to need, or the first parameter. So I'll go ahead and paste it right here, and I'm going to introduce a comma. And the next thing that I need will be to create another array within this place. So I'm going to just say array, and within this array right now, we're going to go ahead and then do the rest of the configurations. So the first thing that I would like to configure right now will be the URL. So I'm going to just say cURL pt, that's call-out_URL, and I'm going to use an arrow. Go ahead and set that to the URL that we are going to need for what we want to do. So to do that, I'm talking about this URL that we got from here, which is the reference endpoint. So to put that right in, I'm going to put that in quotations. So I'll paste that particular URL. Let me copy that again. I don't know whether I really copied it before, but let's get that copied. I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. And to really bring in this dynamically, we're going to have to take away this colon, and what we're supposed to do right now would be to concatenate. So to concatenate, I'm going to just kind of close the first quotation mark right here, and I'll put a dot, and I'm going to turn this to a variable. And for this last quotation, I'm going to have to take that away and introduce a comma, just like that. And yeah, so that's it. The next thing that I would like to do will be to make sure that we set the configuration for COI to really return everything as a string. And to do that, I'm going to put that in this place. So this is going to be call_out_return transfer, just like that. Call_out_return transfer, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to true, just like that. That will introduce a comma. Then on the next one, what I need to do right now will be to set the headers. So let's just put a comment here and say something like set the headers. And the things that we need from the headers are not really too many, so we're going to just need the authorization. I'm not going to set the type of a content that is going to accept, and go ahead and then the kind of control the cache. So the first thing that I would like to do right now, well, that is going to be within a constant that we'll call call_out_http header. So I'm going to just do that right now. So this is going to be call_out_http header, like that. And I hope I spelled that right. Oh no, this is http header. This is going to be H, not G. So this is http header. So this is how it should be, call_out_http header. I'm going to use an arrow to go ahead and set that to an array, which will be in a square bracket in this case. Then within this square bracket, I'm going to go ahead and then bring in the first thing that I want to bring in right now will be the content type that is going to accept. So I'm going to just say accept, and that is going to be application /JSON. That will be the content type that is going to accept. And you can use content type, set it to application, just content-type right here. So they will do the same thing. Okay, so this is going to be a comma here, and then on the next line, I'm going to go ahead and set the authorization right here. So I'm going to just say authorization. I'll take away the URL, and that should be in quotations, guy. This should be in quotation. Yeah, so this is how it should be. And within this place, let me add a colon, and I'm going to go ahead and then bring in the, what is it called, my test secret key. So I'm going to add the word bearer first of all, and I'll go ahead and get my what is it called, my test secret key right now. So I'll come back when I get that. Alright guys, so I've gotten my test secret key, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it right here, and then introduce a comma, then go ahead and set the last thing right now, which is going to be the cache control. So this is going to be cache-control, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to no cache, and just like that. And that's basically the last thing that we need to do right there. Okay, so yeah, so that is just that. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do right now would be to go ahead and then execute the COI. So we're going to do that out here. So I'm going to put a comment first of all and say execute. And to do that, I'm going to just have to put that in a variable. So this is going to be response. Let me close this out. So this is going to be response, and we're going to set that to cURL_exec, like that. And That is just the function that we are going to use to execute that, and that is going to need a parameter right now, and the parameter that is going to be will be the URL parameter that we have already set. So I'm going to just put the variable right here, which is going to be coin, just like that. And yeah, that's that. So the next thing that we can do right now will be to start setting set a control for the errors. So I will just I kind of set a variable here, which I'm going to just call ERR for error, and that is going to be equal to cURL underscore error, which is really a function that is coming from a COI, and it's still going to need a parameter called a COI, same thing that we have above, and that is just that. Then to proceed with the checking of the error, we can use if statement to check for the error right now. So let's do that. So if I'm going to go ahead and pass in that variable of the ERR for error. So if error within these square brackets, these curly brackets, the first thing that I would like to do, that means if there is something this is really set, if there is an error here, I want to go ahead and then use die function to just kind of key the script. So this is going to be, I will just go ahead and then I'll put a message right here, which is going to be cURL returned some errors, and I'm going to concatenate onto that. So this is going to be dot, and I'm going to go ahead and then put that variable called error right there, ERR, and in that case it's going to go ahead and then I'll put whatever error code that is within the COI, or whatever message that the COI has. I'm talking about whatever error that has been registered within COI, that it will be saved in this variable. So it's going to put that right here with this particular string that we have in this place. So that is just that. And if I get out of this curly bracket right now, alright, so we have basically gotten everything in place right now. But with the first thing that I would like to check now is to see whether whatever we have on this response variable right now is what is really coming back from Paystack anytime the coil executes. And to test that, or for us to see what is coming back, well, I'm going to just go ahead and use a var dump function right here, and I'm going to go ahead and put in this particular variable that we have right here. So this is going to be response within this particular function. And if I go ahead and save this page, if everything works fine, I should have some certain things returned to me from Paystack. So I'm going to go back to the verification endpoint right now, and let's refresh this page. And I think we have some errors which we need to debug right now. And if you take a close look at this error report, you will clearly see that we misspelled the word, the constant call-ups right here. So we're going to have to correct that, and that is found on line 20. So if we go back to our coding right now and we go to line 20, where is line 20? This is line 20. So we're going to have to correct this. This is supposed to be call-ups, so this should be P PT like this. This is how it should be. Just it has to be the same thing as those other ones that we have right here. I'm going to just save that and try again. So if we refresh this page now, and we have really solved that particular error. But if we look at this place right now, the status says false, and the message says transaction reference not found. That means it did not really see this reference on the URL. So we need to make sure that it really sees this reference. So let's check and find out why it didn't capture this particular reference. You know what? Instead of trying to go into the Paystack to find out whether this is really existing or not, why don't we just make a payment? Let's go ahead and make a payment. Let's do another testing here. So if we go back to the index page and we click on any of the products. So if we scroll down right now and then put any email, let's say xyz@gmail.com, and click on order now, that's going to take us to the payment page. And if we go ahead and make payment right now, let's see whether it's going to generate anything for us from Paystack. And as you can see, that went really through. So everything worked just fine. So you now see that the status is now set to true. The message that we have right now says verification successful, and within our data array we have all that we need. So we have the domain, we have the text to be set to be status, the status to be set to success. This is the reference of this particular payment. This is the amount of that particular product, and the message. So we basically have everything, even the custom fields, which is the display name is product name, variable name is product, and the value right now is Flutter Web Integration ebook. So we basically have everything, even the email. Look at the email right here. Okay. So what we're going to do next is to go ahead and then see how is it that we can fetch the things that we need from this page and display them on the web page. So we're going to go ahead and display them right here. That will be the next thing that we're going to do. Alright, so if we go back to our development environment, and the first thing that I want to do right now, let me scroll down to this part of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out right now. So once you comment that out, the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to, first of all, I'm going to have to convert all that we have that has been returned to us now as a JSON object. And to do that, we're going to use a JSON_decode. So I'm going to set a variable that I'm going to just call trans for transaction, and I'm going to use this particular function called JSON_decode. I'm going to go ahead and pass in that variable that we have up there, which we'll call the response right there, and I will terminate this line. So that means that I've basically converted in everything to an object. So if I want to access them, I can use the arrows right now to access anything that I need. Alright, so the first thing that I would like to do now is to check if there is the status is already set. Okay, and to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do now is to just say if not trans, I'm going to use arrow, and I will say status right here, and within this curly bracket, the thing that I would like to do now will be, so within this place right now, since I said if not trans, I'll set to status right now. That means there is an error. Okay, and if there is an error, the first thing that I would like to do will be to kill the page. So if we don't find that status right there, so we're going to just kind of kill the page by saying die, and within this place we can just put a message. We say something like API returned some errors, just like that, and we can go ahead and concatenate onto that and put the variable that really contains that error. So I'm going to just say dot, and I'll go ahead and put that variable called trans like that, and I will use arrow. Then I'm going to just go ahead and say message, which will tell us really what is really wrong with whatever problem that we are having at the moment. So I'm going to terminate that line. So this is going to basically print out this message that we have right here, whatever that is really put in this place. In this case, once it is true, we have a verification successful, but if it wasn't true, we'll get a different message right here. So that's the message I'm trying to just capture. So that is just that for that part. And the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to check on this place, this status right now, if we have success. Where is it? I'm talking about this particular status that is within the data. So if we have success right here, what do we want to do? Okay, that's the next checking that I want to do right now, and I'm going to have to do that outside here. I still have to use an if statement to do that. So I'll just say if success is equal to $trans, then with arrow, and first of all I'm going to have to access data, since what I want to access is within the data array. So I'm going to say data, and the next thing that I need will be the status right now. So this is status, and I'm going to put a curly bracket here, and within this particular curly bracket, what I want to do right now is first of all capture the amount. And I don't know whether I really explained this very well. Let me try that again. See, what I'm trying to do from this place right now is that if the status, within the status, we could not find the status set to true on this place, we're going to have to kill the page by bringing out this error for them. But if we discover that we have status and we have success within the status, we want to go ahead and then proceed with the good things that we want to do. The first thing that I want to do is to fetch the amount. So I'm going to put a variable right here and say amount, and I'm going to go ahead and then set that to, of course, that's going to be trans, and with an arrow, shoot out trends very well. And with an arrow, I'm going to just access the data first, and after data I'm going to just have to access the amount. So this is amount, and that is going to help us capture the amount and save it in the variable that we call amount right there. So I'm going to terminate that line. The next one that I would like to fetch now will be the customer. So I'm going to copy this and paste it right here. So this is going to be, we're going to go ahead and call this amount, an email. And to grab the email, of course, once we get into the trans and get the data, the first thing that we need to grab right now will be the customer. So I'm going to go ahead and capture customer right here. And after the customer, we're going to go ahead and then capture the email. And if you don't know why I'm really putting customer right there, let me show you that from the browser. You see the customer object is right here. If you look at this place, this is the customer object and it's right here. And everything is really embedded inside of this data. So I will access data first. Then on the object that contains the customer, I have to reference to customer. Then I'll go ahead and pick the email. Look at the email right here. Okay. So this is the customer code, and then the rest of the things that are embedded in the customer code. The customer object. That's why I'm including that customer right there. Okay, if that really makes sense. Alright, so let's go ahead and also fetch the reference, which I'm going to go ahead and paste what I've copied before. I'm going to change this variable name to ref, which stands for reference, and this is going to be trans. And after trans, we're going to have to get into the reference. So this is going to be reference. So I'm going to type reference right there, and with that we've gotten the reference. And if you look at it on the browser, you look at the reference. Once we grab the data, we can go ahead and grab the reference right here, okay, which is really very simple to grab. Let's go back, and the next thing that we would like to fetch right now will be to kind of go ahead and fetch the product name if we want. But before we do that, there's something that I need to show you right now, because it really involves a different way if you want to get the product name. Which what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then, alright, so if we go back to the browser right now, and we try to access that those metadata, which is where we have the product name. So if you look at this thing right now, we have everything is really inside of this called data, but within the data we have a field that is called an object or an array. Let's call that an array called the metadata. And within this metadata, we have another array called the custom fields, which we need to access before we can go ahead and get maybe the display name, the variable name, and even the the product name, whatever that we want to capture within this place. Okay, so we need to pass through the metadata, get into the custom fields before we can grab anything that we want to grab within this place. Okay, and we have those things as an array. Okay, we have them as an array, so that we have to fetch them in a different way. So let's go back to our development environment and see how we can fetch that. So what I'm going to do right now is to set a variable, which I'm going to just call the product underscore name, and I'm going to go ahead and set that now to, of course, that's going to be trends, which contains everything that we have. And with an arrow, the first thing will have to be that data. So we're going to just reference to data first, and after we reference to data, the next thing that we need to reference to will be the metadata, like that. And once we get the metadata, we need to also reference to the custom field. So we're going to just say custom underscore fields. And once we get that, this is now the right time for us to do something that we have not really done within this project that we're working on right now, and that's how to fetch these things as an array. Remember that the custom field is an array right here. If you look at it very well, look at it. This is custom, and it has this sign of an array. So for me to fetch the first one, this is an array is numbered in 0 from 0 up. So 0 is 1 and 1 is 2. So just like that. So the first thing that I want to do now is to fetch the first one that I have within that array. To do that, I'm going to just go ahead and put square bracket, and I'm going to just type 0 for the first array. And I'm going to go ahead and then set that to value, because what I really want is to get the value. Okay, the value. That's the product name. So I'm going to just save value like that, and that is going to help me fetch that particular value. That's the product name. So I'm going to copy that, because the next one that we're going to do is going to look similar. So if I paste this right here, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to product description, which is DESC, like this. That's what we'll have, and everything here is going to remain the same, except that I'm going to go ahead and change this to 1, because that's the next value, the next number within the array. So after 0, have to have a 1. So yeah, so that is just how to get the product description. And then yeah, so that is just that. So the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and finish up what I want to do right here. So in case we do not really see this success within our status, what do we want to do? So that which we want to do, we're going to just have to put that in an else part here. Let's just go ahead and put a die function here. We'll say something like die, and we're going to have to put a, let me say, we'll say transaction not found. So that means it didn't see the transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate that right here. And the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go to our HTML part and then see a way to display all of this that we have really captured and then saved in a variable. So we're going to put them using our HTML, and so let's go ahead and do it right here. Alright, so I'm going to put a history right here. So this is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Let me say something like see the details of your purchase. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and close the history, and that is it for the history right there. Then the next thing is to output those things in paragraphs. So I'm going to just create a paragraph right here, and I'm going to just say customer, which is the first thing that I would like to find right now. So customer email, and I'm going to go ahead and spell out the customer email right here with my PHP. So I'm going to just say throw in my PHP tags, and within this place I'm going to just say echo, and that's going to be the email that contains the email. So that's the variable that contains the email. So I'm going to put the email right there and close the p tag. And the next thing that I need right now will be, let me copy this. I don't want to type all that. So I'm going to paste that, and this is going to be the next thing that I will need will be the reference. So I'm going to change this to reference right there, and this is going to be, I want to change this to ref, which is the variable that contains the reference. So this is going to be called ref right there. And the next one that we'll need will be the product name. So I'm going to paste that which I've copied and change this to, let that be product name. And I'll go ahead and say product underscore name. That's the variable that contains the product name. And the next one is going to be the product description. So I'll copy this, and then I'll go ahead and paste it right here. So this is going to be product description right there, and I'm going to go ahead and change the variable to the right variable. Yes, and then finally I think I need to display the amount, which we're going to have to do that right here. So this is going to be amount, and I'm going to put the product amount right here. So we call that amount. So that's the variable that we need to output right there. And yeah, so I'm going to show you something right now. So if we go ahead and save this page now, and we'll try to refresh our web page. Let's refresh this web page right now. Okay, we have an error, syntax error, unexpected this on line 40. So let's go to line 40 and correct that right now. So line 40 is right here. So this is line 40. Well, this is supposed to be a variable. So I'm going to add a $sign right here. If I save that, we should have solved the error right now. So let's go back to our browser, refresh the web page, and that error is gone, and it has generated all of those things that we typed for us. As you can see, this is the email, this is the reference code. If you look at the URL, you see that right there, and this is the product name, and this is the description of the product. And then the one that I was talking about, I was going to show you, will be this amount. The price to this particular product is 800, but you see, I told you that Paystack normally, there's a way that they put the prices of their stuff, so they're going to kind of bring it out like let's say this is just 80,000 naira, which is not what the person really paid. The person paid 800. So one way to correct this is to go ahead and divide the whatever that they are returning from their endpoint to you. We're going to have to divide it by 100 if you want to round it to the normal price that you have. So this is not 80,000 but 800. And to do that, if you go back right now and then find the place where we talked about amount, I'm talking about where we are displaying the amount. So if you scroll down right here, what you need to do is to just add a / right here, and let's just say 100. And if you save that and refresh, that should round up to the normal amount. So if I refresh this page, you see now that this is now 800 naira. Okay, so that is just that. That's how to do it. And this is just right about the end of the. And if you like this video, you can give me a thumb up, and you can also share the video on your social media handles, so that more people will find this particular channel. And if you need something like an ebook that will help you do more of the things of this nature, build more fintech applications, I do have an ebook that is based on Paystack integration, and I visited all the endpoints on that place. I did things that are really very powerful on that particular ebook. If you need it, just go ahead and connect with me. My email is thelordofapps@gmail.com, and I'm going to leave my details on the description box. So just look at the description box and then you can connect with me. So thank you, and I will see you in the next one.